It usually happens at 3 a.m. The house is silent. The streets outside are empty. The world is asleep. The only sound is the rhythmic, merciless ticking of the clock on the wall, measuring out the time you have left. But you are wide awake. There is a cinema in the mind of every aging person that only opens when the lights go out. And the cruel thing about this cinema is that it never shows you the future. It never shows you new possibilities. It only plays reruns. It plays the greatest hits of your regrets. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, and the projector starts to whir. You watch the scene from 30 years ago where you chose the safe job instead of chasing your dream. You watch the scene where you let pride destroy a friendship that meant the world to you. You watch the moment you walked away from the person you should have married. And as these scenes replay in the high definition of your memory, a single question echoes in the darkness. It is a question that cuts sharper than any knife. What if? What if I had chosen the other path? What if I had been braver? What if I had spoken up? This question is a sweet poison. It tastes like wisdom, but it acts like cyanide. It convinces you that there is another version of you out there in the multiverse. A shadow self who made all the right choices. A version of you who is richer, happier, more successful, and more loved. And compared to that perfect, glowing phantom, your real life, the life you actually lived, feels like a failure. You feel small. You feel a heavy, cold stone of grief sitting in your gut. You tell yourself you're just reflecting. You tell yourself you are analyzing the past to understand it, but that is a lie. You are not learning. You are punishing. You are putting yourself on trial night after night for a crime that does not exist. You are sentencing yourself to live in a prison cell built of memories. But stop. Take a breath. What if I told you that this ghost is a liar? What if I told you that the better life you are mourning is nothing more than a hallucination? What if the very mistakes you are hating right now are actually the most sacred things you own? The ancient Stoics understood this midnight torture better than anyone. They knew that regret is the thief of old age, and they left us a weapon to fight it. A weapon so powerful it can turn that heavy stone of grief into a foundation of unshakable peace. It is not about forgiveness. It is about something much stronger. It is called Amor Fati. If you're tired of the midnight cinema, listen closely. It is time to burn the film. Welcome to Stoic Focus. To understand why we suffer in old age, we must first understand the architecture of regret. Regret is not simply a memory of sadness. Regret is a creative act. It is a work of fiction that we write, direct, and star in every single day. We tend to view our lives as a series of crossroads. We look back at the map of our history and we see the forks in the road. Here is 1985, the choice between the safe job and the risky adventure. Here is 1993. The choice between staying in the marriage or leaving. Here is 2001. The choice to speak the truth or to stay silent. In your memory, you see two clear paths. You took the path on the left, and now, standing here in the twilight of your life, you look at your scars, your empty bank account, or your lonely room, and you become convinced, absolutely convinced, that the path on the right was the path to paradise. You tell yourself, if I had just taken that other road, I would be happy today. I would be wealthy. I would be loved. I would be whole. This line of thinking is what the Stoics would call a fantasia, a false impression, a hallucination of the mind. It is the root of your misery. And today, we are going to dismantle it. The first brutal truth you must accept is this: the road not taken does not exist. It is not a real place. It is a phantom. When you imagine that alternate life, the shadow life, where you made all the right choices, you are cheating. You are rigging the game against yourself. Think about how you construct that fantasy. In your imagination, that unchosen path is perfect. If you imagine the career you didn't take, you imagine the success, the money, and the recognition. You do not imagine the stress, the ulcers, the divorce that might have come with 80-hour work weeks, or the plane crash you might have been on because you were traveling for that job. If you imagine the lover you didn't marry, you imagine a life of perpetual romance and understanding. You do not imagine the mundane arguments, the betrayal, or the boredom that eventually visits every relationship. You are comparing your reality, with all its messy, painful, concrete flaws, against a fantasy that has been scrubbed clean of all suffering. You are comparing a gritty documentary to a fairy tale. Of course, your reality loses. Of course, you feel like a failure. But this comparison is unfair. It is irrational. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, taught us that there is only one reality, the one that happened. In the Stoic view of the universe, there are no mistakes in the grand design. There is only cause and effect. The universe is a woven web of events, stretching back to the beginning of time. You did what you did 30 years ago because of who you were at that moment. You were younger. You were less wise. You were acting based on the information, the fears, and the pressures you felt at that time. To look back now, with the wisdom of a 70-year-old, and judge the actions of a 20-year-old, is an act of supreme arrogance. It is a form of self-abuse. You are punishing a child for not knowing what an adult knows. You are screaming at a blind man for stumbling in the dark. The Stoics ask us to embrace a concept called determinism of character. You could not have done otherwise, because you were not someone else. You were you. The choice you made was the only choice that specific version of you was capable of making. To wish you had acted differently is to wish you were a different human being entirely. And this brings us to the deepest layer of the illusion, the butterfly effect of the soul. We often say, I wish I could go back and change that one thing. We want to surgically remove the regret, like cutting a tumor out of a body, but keep everything else the same. But life is not a collection of isolated parts. It is a monolith. It is a single, solid block of stone. You cannot simply remove the mistake. If you had not suffered that failure in your business 10 years ago, perhaps you would have become arrogant. Perhaps you would have never learned the humility that makes you a good friend today. If you had not experienced that heartbreak when you were young, perhaps you would never have developed the depth of empathy that allows you to comfort others now. If you had taken the better road, you would not be in this room, watching this video, possessing this mind. To wish away your past mistakes is to wish away your current self. The wisdom you possess right now, the very wisdom that allows you to see your past errors, was bought with those errors. The price of your maturity was your foolishness. You cannot have the prize without paying the price. Imagine, for a moment, that a genie appears and grants your wish. He snaps his fingers, and your biggest regret is erased. You took the other road. Do you realize that in that new timeline, your children might not exist? Do you realize that the friends you love today would be strangers? Do you realize that the specific strength you carry, the strength forged in the fires of your specific troubles, would vanish? You would be a stranger to yourself. Is that what you want to trade your existence for a fantasy? The Stoic does not look at the past and say, it should have been different. The Stoic looks at the past and says, it could not have been otherwise. This is not resignation. This is an alignment with reality. The moment you accept that there was never any other road, that the path you walked was the only path you could have walked, the heavy backpack of what if falls off your shoulders. The ghost of the person you could have been is haunting you. It is whispering that you aren't enough. You must kill that ghost. You must realize that the unlived life is not a treasure you lost. It is a burden you are carrying. You are not a victim of your bad choices. You are the survivor of them. The road you took was rocky. It was full of thorns. It led you through dark valleys and dead ends. But look down at your feet. It led you here. It led you to this moment of realization. It led you to the potential for peace. And perhaps, if we look closely enough, we will see that the road wasn't wrong after all. It was simply yours. It was the necessary curriculum your soul had to study to graduate to the level of wisdom you hold today. Stop looking at the map for a road that doesn't exist. The map is closed. The ink is dry. The only road that matters now is the one under your feet. And unlike the past, this road is still being built. But before we can walk forward, we must learn to do something even harder than accepting the road. We must learn to look at the ugly, broken parts of our history, the cracks in the bowl, and see gold. We must learn the art of the golden scar. Now that we have accepted that there was no other road, we must deal with the wreckage found on this one. Even if you accept that your past was inevitable, you may still look at it with shame. You look at your history and you see a landscape of broken things, broken promises, broken relationships, broken dreams. You feel that because you failed, you are damaged goods. You feel that your mistakes have diminished your value as a human being. You compare yourself to people who seem to have lived perfect, unbroken lives, people who stayed married, people who saved their money, people who never stumbled, and you feel less than them. But here, the Stoics invite us to adopt a radically different aesthetic of the soul. To understand this, we must look to the East, to a philosophy that shares the same DNA as Stoicism, the Japanese art of Kintsugi. Imagine a precious ceramic bowl. It is beautiful, symmetrical, and perfect. Now, imagine someone drops it. It crashes onto the stone floor and shatters into jagged pieces. In the West, or in our modern mindset, this bowl is now trash. It is broken. It has lost its function. We would sweep up the shards and throw them in the garbage, then go to the store to buy a new, perfect bowl. But the Kintsugi master does not throw the pieces away. He picks them up with reverence. He rejoins the broken shards, but he does not use invisible glue. He mixes the lacquer with powdered gold. He does not try to hide the cracks. He highlights them. He fills the scars with liquid gold, making the lines of the breakage the most visible, radiant part of the object. When the work is finished, the bowl is considered more beautiful and more valuable than it was before it was broken. Why? Because now it has a history. Now it has a story. It has survived a trauma, and it has been transformed. It is no longer just a bowl. It is a testament to resilience. You are that bowl. The regrets you carry, the divorce, the bankruptcy, the addiction, the time you fell flat on your face. These are not marks of shame. These are your cracks. And the wisdom you have gained from them is the gold. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who faced plagues, wars, and betrayals, understood this alchemy perfectly. He wrote one of the most powerful sentences in human history: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Read that again. The obstacle doesn't just block the path. The obstacle is the path. The mistake isn't just a detour from your life. The mistake is the life. Let's apply this to your midnight regrets. You regret a failed marriage. You see it as wasted years. But let's pour the gold into that crack. Because of that failure, did you learn to be more independent? Did you learn what you will never tolerate again? Did the pain of that separation carve out a deeper capacity for empathy in your heart? If yes, then the failure was the fire that forged your character. Without the breakage, you would still be the naive, fragile person you were 30 years ago. You regret a career failure. You lost money. You lost status. But look at the gold. Did that loss destroy your arrogance? Did it force you to realize that money is not the measure of your soul? Did it make you kinder to others who are struggling? Then the bankruptcy bought you something money cannot buy: humility and perspective. We often wish for a life without scars. We wish we had arrived at old age smooth, unblemished, and perfect. But a person with no scars is a person with no experience. A person who has never broken is a person who is fragile. If you tap them, they might shatter, but you have already shattered, and you have put yourself back together. You are anti-fragile. You have been tested by the fire, and you are still standing. The Stoic does not hide their scars. They wear them like medals. Every regret you have is proof that you dared to live. You made the wrong choice. Good. It means you had the courage to choose. You trusted the wrong person. Good. It means you had the courage to open your heart. You fell down. Good. It means you were in the arena, fighting, not sitting in the stands watching. Do not envy the people who seem to have lived perfect lives. Often, their perfection is just a lack of daring. They didn't break because they never stretched themselves. They remained safe, small, and smooth porcelain cups sitting on a high shelf, untouched by life. You are the bowl that was used. You are the bowl that held the hot soup of life, that was dropped, that broke, and that returned. So, tonight, when the memory of a mistake comes to haunt you, do not push it away. Do not say, "I wish this didn't happen." Instead, imagine picking up a brush dipped in molten gold. Trace the line of that memory. Say to yourself, "Yes, I did that. Yes, I hurt. Yes, I lost. And look at who I became because of it." You are not defined by the crack. You are defined by how you filled it. The you of the past was the victim of the event. The you of the present is the architect of the meaning. The past gave you the wound, but only you can provide the gold. And once you start seeing your history not as a list of crimes, but as a map of survival, you are ready for the final, most advanced step of the Stoic sage. It is not enough to just accept the cracks. You must learn to love the hand that dropped you. You must embrace the holy fire of Amor Fati. We have accepted the road. We have gilded the scars. Now, we arrive at the summit of Stoic philosophy. This is the hardest step, but it is also the most liberating. Most people believe that the goal of philosophy is resignation. They think a Stoic is someone who grits their teeth, looks at their suffering, and says, "Well, I cannot change it, so I must tolerate it." This is better than complaining, but it is still weak. It is the attitude of a prisoner who obeys the guard because he has no choice. The true Stoic does not merely tolerate their history. The true Stoic devours it. We are looking for a state of mind that the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by the Stoics, called Amor Fati. Translated from Latin, it means the love of fate. Notice the word, not acceptance of fate, not tolerance of fate. Love. To love your fate means that if you had the power to live your life over again, you would choose to live it exactly the same way. You would choose the same parents. You would choose the same struggles. You would choose the same heartbreaks, the same mistakes, the same embarrassing moments, and the same pain. You would not change a single comma in the story of your life. This sounds insane to the modern mind. Why would anyone want to repeat their suffering? To understand this, we must use the metaphor of the fire. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Imagine a small, weak candle flame. If you throw a large, wet log onto it, representing a tragedy or a regret, the candle will be crushed. It will be extinguished. The obstacle destroys the weak mind. But now, imagine a roaring bonfire, a fire that is raging with intensity. If you throw that same wet log into this fire, what happens? The fire does not go out. It consumes the log. It wraps around it. It boils the moisture out of it. And within seconds, the log becomes the fire. The bigger the log, the brighter the fire burns. Amor Fati is that bonfire. Your regrets are the fuel. When you look back at your past with the spirit of Amor Fati, you stop saying, "I wish that didn't happen." Instead, you say, "That happened, and it was fuel for who I am today." You lost your job at 40. That was the fuel that burned away your complacency and made you hustle. You were betrayed by a partner. That was the fuel that burned away your naivety and taught you self-respect. You wasted years in addiction or laziness. That was the fuel that created the desperate hunger for meaning you feel right now. Without the log, the fire would not be as bright. Without the regret, your wisdom would not be as deep. The Stoic does not want a life of easy, dry twigs. The Stoic welcomes the heavy logs because he trusts his inner fire to transmute them into light. This requires a profound shift in how you view the timeline of your life. You must stop seeing your life as a series of isolated events, some good and some bad. You must see it as a single, unbreakable tapestry. Nietzsche explained that all things are inextricably linked. You cannot pull one thread without unraveling the whole sweater. If you say, "I love this moment right now," if you love the peace of this evening, or the smile of your grandchild, or the wisdom of this video, then you must love everything that led to it, because the chain of cause and effect is unbroken. To get to this specific chair, in this specific room, with this specific mindset, you had to walk the exact path you walked. If you remove the mistake of 1990, the chain breaks. You are not here. You are somewhere else. Someone else. Perhaps shallower. Perhaps duller. So, when you curse your past, you are cursing your present. You are rejecting yourself. But when you practice Amor Fati, you are saying yes to the entire universe, yes to the joy, and yes to the grief, yes to the success, and yes to the failure. It is all necessary. It is all part of the masterpiece. This is the ultimate spiritual alchemy. It turns the heavy lead of regret into the gold of gratitude. It allows you to look at the ghosts in your midnight cinema and say, "Thank you. You were terrible. You hurt. You almost broke me. But you didn't. You made me." Imagine the power of an old age lived this way. Most people age with bitterness. They sour like old milk. They are full of resentment for what the world took from them. But the practitioner of Amor Fati ages like wine. They get richer. They get deeper. They are not afraid of their memories. They own them. They have integrated the shadow. Tonight, try this exercise. It is difficult, but try it. Call to mind the thing you regret the most, the thing that makes you cringe. Visualize it clearly, and then, instead of pushing it away, throw it into the fire. Say to it, "Amor Fati, I love that this happened, because it belongs to me. It is my burden and my blessing. I will not trade it for anyone else's easy life." Feel the shift in your chest. Feel the victim mentality evaporate. You are no longer a victim of your history. You are the master of it. You have taken the chaos of the past and ordered it into a meaningful narrative. But be warned, we do not have forever to practice this. The fire is burning, but the fuel is running low. The clock on the wall is not just ticking, it is counting down. We have dealt with the past. Now we must face the most urgent question of all. What will you do with the sand that is left in the glass? We must ensure that we do not die twice. We arrive now at the final, and perhaps the most urgent, realization of the Stoic life. We have spent this time looking backward. We have made peace with the ghosts. We have thrown the logs of regret into the fire of Amor Fati, but there is a danger in staying here too long. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote a short but devastating book titled On the Shortness of Life. In it, he argues something that goes against our common intuition. He says, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And what is the greatest waste of all? What is the most expensive way to spend your spirit? It is spending your present mourning your past. When you sit in your chair today, agonizing over a mistake you made 20 years ago, you are committing a double crime against your own life. First, you lost the past. That time is gone. It was spent foolishly, perhaps. But now, by reliving that regret, you are losing the present too. You are throwing good money after bad. This is what I call dying twice. The first death is the mistake itself, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that was missed. That was painful. But the second death, the one that happens every night in your mind, is voluntary. It is suicide of the soul. Every minute you spend wishing you were younger is a minute you are not inhabiting the age you are. Every hour you spend wishing you were elsewhere is an hour you are not inhabiting the room you are in. Think of an hourglass. The sand in the bottom bulb is your past. It is fixed. It is heavy. No amount of screaming, praying, or crying will make a single grain of sand float back up to the top. It is defined by gravity, which is the law of nature. The sand in the top bulb is your future. We do not know how much is left. It could be a mountain of sand, or it could be a few grains. The only thing that is real is the thin, narrow neck in the middle. The single grain of sand falling right now. Regret blocks that neck. It clogs the flow. It paralyzes you. And for an aging person, this paralysis is a tragedy, because unlike a 20-year-old, you do not have the luxury of infinite tomorrows. The currency of your life has become scarce, and because it is scarce, it is infinitely valuable. Seneca warns us, while we are postponing, life speeds by. You have postponed your happiness for decades. You postponed it while you raised the children. You postponed it while you built the career, and now you are postponing it again by wallowing in regret. Stop. You cannot rewrite the first 10 chapters of your book. They are printed, the ink is dry, but the pen is still in your hand. And the page before you, chapter 11 or chapter 70 or chapter 80, is blank. Do you want to write the final chapter as a tragedy about a man who sat in a room and cried about the beginning, or do you want to write an epic conclusion about a man who finally woke up? The beauty of the Stoic mindset is that it allows for a late harvest. History is full of people who found their greatest peace in their final act. Look at the trees in autumn. They do not regret that they are no longer green spring saplings. They blaze with red and gold. They offer their fruit. They are beautiful because they are at the end of the cycle, not in spite of it. Your scars make you deep. Your mistakes make you wise. Your losses make you grateful for what remains. Use this. Use all of it. If you regretted not spending enough time with your family in the past, do not waste today feeling guilty. Pick up the phone today. That is the only apology nature accepts. Changed behavior. If you regretted not following your passion, do not weep over the lost years. Pick up the brush, the pen, or the instrument today. 1 hour of creation is worth a lifetime of regret. You are not dead yet. Do not act like a ghost haunting your own house. Inhabit your body. Inhabit this day. The past is a corpse. Leave the dead to bury the dead. You are alive. And as long as there is breath in your lungs, there is a duty to the fire. The duty to burn bright. The duty to love what is. The duty to finish the story well. So, stand up. Walk to the window. Look at the world. It is still there. It is still waiting for you. The you that you could have been is gone. He never existed. But the you that is here, he is real, and he is enough. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not let the sun go down on your regret. Burn the ships. There is no going back. The only way is forward. The sun is rising now. The long night of the soul is over. The midnight cinema has closed its doors. The projector is off. The ghosts have faded back into the silence. You are still here. Look at your hands. They are not the hands of the person you could have been. They are the hands of the person you are. They are scarred. Yes, they are wrinkled, or perhaps. But they are strong. They have held on. They have survived the storm. You have spent enough time apologizing for your existence. You have spent enough time looking at the locked doors of the past. It is time to turn around. The door in front of you is open. The air is fresh. Remember the lesson of the Kintsugi bowl. You are not broken, you are gold-filled. Remember the lesson of the fire. You are not a victim. You are the alchemist who turns regret into fuel. From this moment forward, make a pact with yourself. When the voice of what if whispers in your ear, you will answer with a single thunderous shout, Amor Fati. I love my fate. I love my story. I love the road that brought me here. You cannot unlive the past, but you can outlive it. You can live so fully, so deeply, and so bravely in your remaining years that the ghost of regret dies of starvation. Now, before you go, I want to bridge the distance between us. The path of Stoicism can feel like a solitary walk. We often sit in our rooms, thinking we are the only ones wrestling with these shadows. But you are not alone. There is an army of us. I want to know where you are standing in this world. In the comments below, please tell me, where are you listening from right now? Are you in a bustling city in Vietnam, a quiet town in Texas, or a village in the mountains of Europe? Write your city or country down below. Read the comments of others. You might be surprised to find that another Stoic archer, someone who understands your heart, is living just down the street or in the same city. We are closer than we think. If this video helped you silence the ghosts, please like it so it can reach other souls who are awake at 3:00 a.m. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Stoic Focus. We are building a home for the wise here, and there is always a seat for you by the fire. The past is ash. The future is a dream. Only the flame is real. Burn bright. Thank you for watching.